Wilmington, Delaware, and Elmer on the line for Craig Simons. Hi there.
Hello, hello. Yes, I was a 13-year-old student in Philadelphia at the time. I was between 2 and 3 o'clock. We were having a family get-together, father, mother, aunt, and uncle. Happened to turn the radio on in the room, and we heard this announcement, and we were completely shocked and totally couldn't understand what was going on. I got the impression that it was somewhere off of the coast of California. And then I kept asking these adults, what will happen? And they said, oh, Japan, that little island over there, why, this will be over in maybe a month.
Yeah.
And we will be the victors.
Yeah. Well,
so, that was our afternoon.
I hope everybody who's listening writes down their recollections, because they are important to history. Whether you were in Pearl, or you were in uniform, or you were a child, or you're a civilian, all these recollections are important to history because the day is so important to history. So everybody was listening. A lot of people, most people in America really couldn't find Pearl Harbor on a map on December 7th, but they knew three things: that we've been attacked, one; two is Japan declared war after the attack; and number three, it had occurred on a Sunday, and I think that really offended a lot of people's sensibilities.
That Japan declared war before we did, after the attack, immediately after the attack?
They declared war on us the afternoon of the 7th. We declared war on the 8th after the Congress approved the President's request on the 8th for a declaration of war against Japan.
Let's hear from Muncie, Indiana. And Michael, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. I have two questions. The first is, when I went to Pearl Harbor in 2000, got to meet Daniel Martinez and some of the other people there, and I talked to a fellow that was one of the investigators when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor the second time. That was done in 1942 in April, when a flight of Mavis flying boats had released their bombs where they thought was the storage tanks in high clouds, and the bombs exploded in the mountain line. And the Hawaiian people thought the Navy was bombing them, and the Navy told them that the Army was bombing them. So they sent up a group of people from both sides, and they went up there and they found pieces of copper shrapnel with Japanese characters on it. Later on, when they got a hold of the Yokohama Naval Base, they started finding information after the war was over that there was a flight of Mavis flying boats that landed at the sea, was refueled by I-class submarines, and went on to Pearl Harbor, and that's how they found that out.
All right, Michael, have you heard that story before?
I am familiar with that story. There are so many ironic stories that come out of the attack on Pearl Harbor and the aftermath. The afternoon of December 7th, the Enterprise, and one of the great ironies, and luckily for the United States, all three aircraft carriers that were supposed to be stationed there, that were the principal targets, were all out. One, I believe, was two were delivering airplanes to Wake Island and some other places. One, I believe, was on its way back to San Diego for repairs. But the Enterprise was supposed to be doing that morning, but had been held up by a storm. So they didn't approach Oahu until that afternoon, and they had a flight of planes up searching for any enemy planes or any aircraft, and they were then on approach to land at Oahu, and men on the ground, the Navy on the ground, have been told repeatedly, these are friendlies, these are friendlies, these are friendlies, and we actually ended up shooting down 5 of the 6 planes that were American planes, because everybody was just in a complete state of panic.
Our guest is Craig Simons. His new book is December 1941. About 10 more minutes of your phone calls. The numbers again for the Eastern and Central Time Zone: 202-737-0001, Mountain and Pacific 202-737-0002, and World War II veterans 202-628-0205. What was the alert level stateside in the days after the attack on Pearl Harbor, and how did civilians participate?
They participated by joining civil defense. New York City put out a call for airplane spotters, and 10,000 people showed up with binoculars, but everybody wanted to do something, and within a matter of hours. So they are donating blood. In New York, very quickly, women are joining professional fire department units, because the men are going into the military. Both the Coast Guard, the Navy, the Army, the Marine Corps, their recruiting offices have to go on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week open because of the huge outpouring of not just young men who want to enlist in the various branches, but there were veterans of the Spanish-American War who tried to enlist. There were veterans of World War I who tried to enlist. Women tried to enlist. A group of women stormed the Selective Service Office in Washington, demanding to be drafted into the military.
Our guest is Craig Shirley. We have I believe we have a tweet. We have a tweet up. Let's see if I can bring that up for you. I'm going to try to do this. I'll tell you what. We'll wait for that and bring up Richard in Bellum, New Mexico, for Craig Shirley. Hi, Richard. New Mexico, you're on the air. Go ahead. Okay.
Maybe that was in Area 54.
You take a day-by-day account of the war. What did the administration? But ahead of the attack itself,
right.
The president received a confidential naval briefing in the days ahead of Pearl Harbor, December 4th, I think you write.
Right.
What was in that briefing, and how did that affect the alert level of our forces?
We were already, there was a state of alert. The Pacific commanders have been getting war warnings from the War Department for a number of days, and the Navy had planes up each day that were flying around the Hawaiian Islands scouting, and there were ships on patrol, so that they were doing their routine patrol. The president had gotten a 26-page memo on December 4th from the Office of Naval Intelligence, and it was a breakdown of Japanese espionage activities in the United States and in the Hawaiian Territory. And there was an extensive spy network that was going on in the United States. There was obviously the embassy here, which was being used, but then there were Japanese consulates in Honolulu, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, New Orleans, other places around the country, and the memo went into some detail about how the Japanese government was gathering as much information as possible about the American military capability in anticipation of possible, in the phrases, possible open conflict. That's a direct quote. With the United States, either the West Coast or the Panama Canal Zone or the Hawaiian Territory.
In terms of the public itself, was the public ready or in favor of going to war?
No. There was a very strong, at the end of World War I, there was a very bad taste in American people's mouths about it, because afterwards there was a phrase going around America that said, all we got was death and debt and George M. Cohen. And we had become, in many ways, isolationist. We passed the Neutrality Acts in the 30s, which prohibited U.S. troops from leaving North America. Franklin Roosevelt, in running for re-election in 1940, in October, gives a speech in which he says, to American mothers, I'm not going to send your boys to die in a European war. In 1941, the Congress comes within one vote, the House comes within one vote of abandoning the draft, which would have meant the 800,000 men that we had in uniform at the time would have been all discharged from the military. So as of December 7th, if that had happened, we would have had no standing army whatsoever. There was no interest in getting in the European war in this country, and we weren't even thinking about war with Japan.
We have our New Mexico caller on the line. Richard, go ahead with your comment for Craig Shirley.
Hello, Mr. Shirley.
Hello.
My dad was an able seaman aboard the SS President McKinley, 500 miles east-northeast of the Big Island of Hawaii, on December 7th. He was actually hanging in the radio room when he heard the distress calls from the SS Cynthia Olsen when she was sunk by Japanese submarine I-26 about 3 hours before the attack happened. He pulled in on December 9th to find out that as a merchant seaman he had a job-skill-critical war effort and had a draft firm for the entire war. He later saw action in the invasions of Attu, North Africa, Sicily, Salerno, Anzio, and Iwo Jima, and then was drafted in the Army in 1946.
Richard, thanks for weighing in. Any recollection of anything you want to add to that call?
Well, the Cynthia Olsen was hit by, he's absolutely right, everything he knows his stuff. I believe it was carrying lumber at the time. It was not a naval vessel, it was a commercial vessel, but it was fired upon. And another one of those stories that kind of gets overlooked because of all the interest in December 7th was that in the days after December 7th, there were Japanese submarines that were operating on the west coast of the United States, firing on naval vessels and commercial
Did they sink
vessels.
any?
They sank at least one, yes.
How many ships and aircraft did we lose at Pearl Harbor?
We lost 18 ships, but most of them were repaired and refloated and then used in the war. Only 2, including the Arizona, were lost and were never able to be recovered. We lost almost 200 planes on the ground.
We have a couple more minutes with Craig Shirley. We hear from World War II and Korean veteran next from Marietta, California. Harold, welcome to the program.
Yes, how are you?
Doing fine. Just to make sure, Harold, that you mute your television, go ahead with your question or comment for Craig Shirley.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is I joined the Navy in 42, and I was 16 years old. And I spent the World War II invasions in Admiralties and in New Guinea and also in the Philippines. I was in the 7th Fleet Amphibious Forces, and I also spent 16 years in submarines. And but I didn't do anything special. I just did my job. That's all. And I'm a total of 37 years altogether as a military and civilian guy in the Navy, and I'm retired now, and I'm 86 years old now, and I'm taking it easy.
Harold, thanks for being a part of the program.
God bless you.
Let's get one more call in. Going to Philadelphia, and Mario, who is a World War II vet. Mario, hi there.
Hi.
Let's get one more call in. Just do us a favor. Make sure you mute your television or and turn it down, and go ahead with your thoughts for Craig Shirley. Go ahead with your thoughts. Mario, are you still there with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead and ask your question then.
My question is... Are you still there with us? Yes, I'm still with you. Go ahead and ask your question then.
Yes. Mario, I'm going to let you go there. We thank you for weighing in, and sorry you couldn't get your question. And any final thoughts about some of the things you've heard from veterans this afternoon?
Well, like I said before, I hope everything they went through is written down or recorded somehow. It's so invaluable to history. And this is, I mean, we're losing a generation. Tom Brokaw wrote a book about the greatest generation, and you heard the previous caller kind of have an aw shucks attitude about what they did. And millions of men went to war, and many women went to war. And when they came back, they went back to their lives. They went back to working in factories or farming, and some went to college under the GI Bill. But there was not, a lot of bravado about it. They just kind of took it in stride. There's something very American, something very American exceptional about that, to do something really terrific and then just make it a part of, it's just, I did what I was supposed to do, and I'm proud of what I did, but now I need to get on with my life. It's something really marvelous to see. You wrote 2 books about Ronald Reagan. Can you quickly tell us what he was doing on December 7th, 1941? He was, Ronald Reagan tried to enlist 3 times. He was in the Army Reserve and had been since the mid-30s out in California. He tried to enlist. There was one of the movies that was being played in movie theaters around America on the December 7th. It was International Squadron starring Ronald Reagan. And he actually tried to enlist 3 times for active duty, but he was turned away three times. His eyesight was so bad that he could not tell a tank unless it was 7 feet or less from him. So he ended up doing war training films and things like that, but what he could do to help the war effort. The book is December 1941, 31 Days That Changed America and Saved the World. The author, Craig Shirley, we thank you for spending time with us this afternoon. Thank you very much.